The puzzle piece didn't fit. Not because of shape, but because my son was forcing it in upside down, hands sticky from apple slices. The cardboard bent a little as he pushed harder. He was humming under his breath, head tilted, focused like the world might crack open if he got it wrong. And I just sat there, cross-legged on the carpet, watching him. Then he asked it, "Why doesn't Grandpa ever call me?" Beat. He didn't look up when he said it, just kept humming, like he hadn't lobbed a grenade between us. My hand froze above the box lid, and in that second, I realized I didn't have a good answer. Hell, I didn't even have a bad one. That was last Thursday. I haven't slept right since. We live in Bloomington, Indiana. Not the edge of the world, but quiet enough to forget people once they stop showing up. My son, Caleb, just turned 7. He's at that age where everything sticks. Commercial jingles, weird facts about spiders, throwaway comments from adults who should have known better. And lately, it seems, he's been noticing who doesn't show up. It's not like I ever sat him down and explained the absence of my father. I guess I figured silence was neutral, that if I didn't bring him up, Caleb wouldn't think to ask. That worked for a while, until it didn't. Back when I was his age, my dad used to make toast on the stovetop. Actual flames, a wire rack, the smell of burnt crust filling the kitchen before sunrise. He wore those hideous white undershirts, the kind that went translucent with sweat. He had hands like cracked leather and a voice that didn't change pitch even when he was pissed, which was often. He wasn't a cartoon villain, just one of those guys who didn't believe in gentle. You earned everything, love included. I left home at 17. College 3 states over. I didn't go back. At Caleb's age, I already knew the difference between quiet and safe. I knew how to lie with a nod. I knew what to hide when I heard the truck door slam in the driveway. And I swore. If I ever had a kid, he'd never have to figure those things out. But here's the catch. When you become a dad yourself, the questions don't stop. They just change direction. My wife, Emily, thinks I should just tell Caleb the truth. Not the whole truth, maybe, but something. He's old enough to get it, she said that night, when Caleb had finally gone to bed and we were loading the dishwasher together. You're not protecting him by keeping it all zipped up. I didn't answer, mostly because I was rinsing a cutting board and it gave me something to stare at. She sighed. I know it's complicated, but he deserves to know who's missing. And what am I supposed to say, Mom? I asked. That his grandpa's alive, but just doesn't give a damn? You could start by telling him your dad and you don't talk, that it's not about him, that it's not his fault. Dried my hands on a towel and leaned back against the sink. Emily's always been better at this. The messy stuff, the not flinching part. But I wasn't ready to let my kid carry even a sliver of that story. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Friday morning, Caleb packed his own lunch for school. He left the crusts on his sandwich and nearly forgot his water bottle. He wears his backpack too low, like a turtle about to tip over, and he never checks if his shoes are matching. But he smiles when he waves goodbye from the bus window. Always. On the way back from drop-off, I found myself pulling into the old gas station off Walnut. Not for gas, just out of habit. Back when I was 19, I'd spent a summer working there, pumping fuel, wiping windshields, dodging my father's calls. He used to leave voicemails that started with my name and ended in a list of things I'd failed at. That summer, I deleted more messages than I played. One time I picked up, just to see what would happen. He didn't say hello, just asked why I hadn't mowed the lawn before I left. That was the last time we spoke. Emily suggested therapy once, not for Caleb, for me. I said no, which in hindsight probably meant yes. Instead, I did what I always do. I Googled. I typed things like, how to explain estrangement to a child, and what to tell your kid when your dad never calls. I found blogs with soft pastel fonts and stock photos of smiling families. None of it helped. So I clicked off and walked to the garage instead. We keep the boxes out there. The ones marked college stuff and baby clothes and donate in Sharpie. And one, way in the back, marked dad. I don't even remember labeling it. Probably during the move 3 years ago. I opened it. Inside, 3 old flannel shirts, 2 yellowing envelopes, and a photo I hadn't seen in over a decade. It was me, maybe 5 years old, sitting on his lap, holding a fishing rod. We were at Lake Monroe, I think. He was smiling. I was too. It made my chest ache. Saturday morning, Caleb had soccer. Emily had a headache, so I took him alone. We sat on the aluminum bleachers while the sun came up behind the goalpost. The field smelled like damp grass and Gatorade powder. I had my travel mug. Caleb had a smudge of Nutella on his cheek. Midway through warm-up, he asked again, "Is Grandpa sick or something?" I blinked. He turned around, squinting into the sun. "I mean, if he was sick, that would make sense." I swallowed hard. "No, buddy," I said quietly. "He's not sick." "Oh." He didn't push it, just went back to stretching. And I sat there like a guy who'd just been handed a test he didn't study for. That night, after Caleb fell asleep, I walked outside and called a number I hadn't dialed in years. It rang. Once, twice, then voicemail. "You've reached Ron Mathers. Leave it." The tone beeped. I opened my mouth, closed it, then said the only thing that came. "It's me." Beat. "My kid asked about you." I didn't know what to say. Beat. "I guess that's all." I hung up. No one called back. Sunday morning came quiet, gray, and a little too warm for October. The kind of air that smells like wet leaves and old wood. I stood by the kitchen sink peeling a clementine, the rind giving way in thick curls, juice stinging the tiny cut on my thumb from yesterday's recycling bin run. Caleb sat at the table drawing robots with fire cannons. Emily was still asleep upstairs. My phone buzzed once on the counter. Unknown number. I didn't answer. Didn't even pick it up. Just let it buzz, stare me down, then blink itself into silence. 3 minutes later, it buzzed again. This time, a voicemail. I didn't listen to it right away. I told myself it was because Caleb was there, but the truth is, I was scared of what it might say. Or not say. That he might yell or laugh, or worse, sound neutral. I slid the phone into my pocket and sat across from Caleb instead. "Your robot's missing an arm," I said. He grinned. "Nope. It's invisible. This one has stealth arms." "Ah, of course." I reached over and fixed the corner of the paper where it was curling up. His drawings were always a little too dark. Lots of thick outlines, deep reds and grays. But there was joy in them too. Always a smile on the robot's face. Always 2 eyes, always open. He didn't ask about Grandpa again that morning, but I could feel it hovering, like a balloon tied just out of reach. Emily and I sat on the porch later, after lunch. She had a cup of tea. I had nothing. Just the voicemail in my pocket and the citrus sting still under my thumbnail. "You gonna listen to it?" she asked. "I don't know," I said. She didn't push. She never does, when it's something I need to trip over myself. The voicemail waited until sunset. I listened in the garage. Something about the concrete and the smell of motor oil made it feel less personal, less like I was letting him into the house. The voice was rougher than I remembered. Slower, too. "Hey, Ron, well, you know who it is. I got your message." Beat. "I didn't expect that." Another beat. "I got your message," he said again. Guess that's something. The message ended there. No apology, no explanation, just 5 seconds of breath between pauses and the repeated fact that I'd left a message. And suddenly, I felt like a damn fool. Like a kid again, waiting for something that never came. That night I told Emily, played it for her on speaker while we sat on the floor folding laundry. She listened with her eyes closed. When it ended, she opened them and said, "That's not nothing." Could have fooled me. No, I mean it. That was him. That was him trying, in the only way he knows. You think that's trying? For him? She shrugged. Probably. Took everything he had not to hang up the second he heard your voice. I tossed a rolled-up sock into the basket harder than I meant to. Monday morning, I called back. It rang 6 times before it picked up. "Hello?" he said. "Yeah, it's me." Silence, then, "You got a kid?" I nodded, forgetting he couldn't see. "Yeah, Caleb. He's 7. More silence, then a noise I couldn't place, like a cough half swallowed. "What's he like?" "Smart," I said. "Funny, loves robots, hates bananas." A low chuckle. "You hated him too." "Still do." He cleared his throat. "I didn't know." "Didn't know what?" "That you had a son." I didn't answer, because it wasn't true. I'd posted the birth announcement online, sent photos to the old address, left a message with Aunt Jackie, who said she'd pass it on. He just didn't look, or didn't care. He said, "I'm not good at this." "No kidding." Silence again. Then, "You want me to meet him?" That question broke something open in my chest. Not in a good way. I didn't answer right then. I told him I had to go, that I was late for something. A meeting, an errand, whatever. He didn't argue. Just said, "All right, you take care." I hung up and sat in the car with the engine off and the keys still in the ignition. I stared at the glove compartment for 10 minutes. Did I want Caleb to meet him? Did I want me to meet him? And what if he said something sharp? What if he disappeared again? What if Caleb remembered him? Or worse, what if he didn't? I picked up Caleb from school that afternoon. He had a macaroni necklace in his hand and a story about a kid who threw up during lunch. He was halfway through his sandwich when he said, "Is Grandpa still mad at you?" My throat went dry. "Why would you think that?" He shrugged. "Sometimes when you don't talk to someone, it's 'cause you're mad." I looked at him. This small person in a striped hoodie with grass stains on his knees, and realized I couldn't lie. "Yeah," I said. "He was mad. I was too. For a long time." "Are you still?" I wanted to say no. Instead I said, "I don't know." Caleb nodded like that was fine, like he was just glad I answered. That night I dug out the photo again. The one from Lake Monroe. Emily saw me holding it and didn't say anything. She just handed me her glass of water and sat beside me on the edge of the bed. I said, "He wants to meet Caleb." She said, "Do you?" "I don't know." "You don't have to decide right now." "I know." She put her head on my shoulder. We sat like that until the lamp buzzed off. Tuesday, Caleb came home with a drawing of our family. It was a stick figure scene. Him, Emily, me, and a question mark hovering above a blank circle on the far right. He pointed. "That's where Grandpa would go, if he came." Stared at it longer than I should have. I told Caleb, "Maybe, one day." He smiled. That night, I called my dad. He picked up on the second ring. "I think we should meet," I said. "Meet. But on my terms, not at the house, not with Caleb, not yet." He paused. "Okay. Coffee shop, tomorrow, 10. Another pause. "All right." I hung up before he could ask anything else. I got there 15 minutes early. Not because I was nervous, I told myself, just traffic, parking, habit. But the truth is, I sat in my car for almost 10 of those minutes just watching the front door of the cafe through the windshield. Wipers made slow passes across the glass. It had started to drizzle. Nothing dramatic, just a wet gray sky and the kind of October rain that made the world feel softer, muffled, like everything was being wrapped in cotton. The cafe was a little place off Kirkwood, exposed brick inside, chalkboard menus, smelled like cinnamon and burnt espresso grounds. I'd been there a few times with Caleb after library days. He liked the blueberry muffins. Today, the tables were mostly empty. A woman typing at a laptop, a student reading with AirPods in, one guy eating eggs with his jacket still on, and me. I chose a table in the back corner, facing the door, of course. Ordered a black coffee and didn't touch it. At exactly 10:03, the bell over the cafe door jingled. I knew it was him by the walk. Slower than I remembered. Stiffer, too. But same set of the shoulders. Same way he scanned the room like he was calculating exits, even though he'd barely crossed the threshold. He wore a gray flannel shirt, neatly buttoned, sleeves rolled, and a baseball cap he probably thought made him look casual. It didn't. His eyes met mine. He didn't smile. Neither did I. He walked over. "Hey," he said, voice lower than I remembered, like gravel in a shoebox. "Hey." He took the chair across from me. Didn't order anything. We sat in silence for nearly a full minute. Just sat. The air between us thick with the kind of things that don't get said until it's too late. Finally, he spoke. "You look older." "You too." He gave a small grunt, something between a laugh and a sigh. I leaned back in my chair. "So this is weird." He nodded. "Yeah, it is." "I wasn't sure you'd show." "Me neither." Another pause. Outside, a car passed with its tires hissing against the wet asphalt. "I don't really know where to start," I said. "You don't have to," he replied. "I kind of do. My kid's asking questions I don't know how to answer. And the reason I don't know is because we haven't spoken in almost 10 years. 11, he said quietly. I blinked. "You counted?" He nodded. "I did." That caught me off guard. He reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out something small, and slid it across the table. It was a photo, faded, bent at the corners. Caleb, maybe 2 or 3 years old, sitting on Emily's lap in what looked like a backyard birthday party. I didn't even remember taking it. "How'd you get this?" "Jackie," he said. "She sent it a few years back." "You never said anything." "I didn't think I had the right." Beat. "That's rich, coming from you." "I deserve that," he said. And for the first time in a very long time, I believed him. We talked. Not smoothly, not easily, but words started coming. He told me about his back problems, the surgery he put off too long. Said he sold the house after Mom died and moved into a 1-bedroom near Bedford. I told him about Caleb's robots, how he builds them out of cereal boxes and glue, and insists they have emotional backstories. He chuckled at that. I didn't tell him much about Emily, not yet. That felt too intimate, too protected. At one point, he looked down into his hands, calloused, rough, and said, "I wasn't a good father." I didn't correct him. "I thought discipline meant control," he continued. "Thought that was love. I didn't know how else to give it." "That's not Caleb's job to fix, I said. "Or mine." He looked up, eyes glassy but dry. "I know." When we parted, he didn't ask to come over, didn't push for anything, just said, "Thank you for letting me sit." I nodded. "Don't know what comes next," I admitted. "Me neither," he said. "But maybe we don't decide that today." "Yeah." He hesitated, then said, "Tell Caleb I'd like to meet him, only if he wants. Only if you think it's okay. I didn't promise anything, just said, we'll see. And he walked out. That night, I sat on the edge of Caleb's bed after lights out. He was still awake, fingers curled around the corner of his blanket, face lit soft by the hall light through the open door. I saw Grandpa today, I said. His eyes opened a little wider. For real? For real. He was quiet for a moment. Then, is he mad? No, not anymore, I don't think. Are you? I considered the question, the weight of it. Less than I was. He nodded, like that made perfect sense. Then, almost whispering, does he want to meet me? I hesitated, then nodded. Yeah, but only if you want to. Caleb didn't answer right away. Finally he said, can I draw him a robot first? I smiled. I think he'd like that. Emily and I stayed up late talking. She asked how the meeting went. I told her the truth. Better than it could have. Worse than I wanted. She put her hand on mine. That's still something. Yeah, I said, it is. We sat there in the quiet, the hum of the fridge in the other room, and I thought about how time doesn't fix anything, but it softens the edges. Maybe that's enough. A week later, Caleb handed me the drawing. It was a robot with big, square hands and a speech bubble that said, "Hello, Grandpa." I sent a picture of it to my dad's number. He texted back 2 words. Tell him thanks. I showed Caleb the message. He smiled so wide it crinkled the corners of his eyes. That night, I found the old Lake Monroe photo and taped it to the fridge. Not because I'd forgiven anything, but because maybe, just maybe, we were starting something new. The first time Caleb met my father, it wasn't a Hallmark moment. There were no warm hugs, no slow-motion smiles across a sunlit field. It was a Saturday afternoon in November, the sky a dull sheet of steel, the kind that presses low on your chest and makes everything feel like it's holding its breath. We met at the community park near 3rd Street. Neutral territory, not too crowded, a few families scattered around, some kids on the jungle gym, one dad trying to coax a toddler off a swing with fruit snacks. My father was already there when we pulled up. He stood by a bench, hands in his coat pockets, staring at a line of trees that had already given up most of their leaves. His gray flannel shirt peeked out from beneath a navy windbreaker. The baseball cap again, same one from the Café. Caleb clutched the drawing in his hand. His palms were sweaty, so were mine. Hey, fool, Aisa said as we approached. My father turned. His eyes flicked down to Caleb, then back up to me. Hey. I knelt down. Caleb, this is Ron. This is Grandpa. Caleb looked up at him, then held out the drawing. I made this. My dad took it slowly, like it might be fragile. He held it up, studied it. The robot had a thick, square chest, one arm a mechanical claw, the other holding a mug labeled coffee. Speech bubble. Hello, Grandpa. I am new. My dad chuckled. It caught me off guard. It's awesome, he said, voice rough but clear. You draw this all by yourself? Caleb nodded. My dad looked down at him. Can I keep it? Caleb nodded again, then backed half a step closer to me. It was enough. We sat on the bench, my dad on one side, me and Caleb on the other. There was a pause. Not tense, just unsure. I used to come here with your dad, Ron said to Caleb, nodding toward the trees. He'd climb that crooked ladder over there and pretend the big slide was a spaceship. Caleb looked at me, then at the ladder. You were a space guy? Just the slide was, I said. You screamed the first time, my dad added. Caleb laughed. I didn't. But I didn't walk away either. Ron pulled something out of his coat pocket, a small box wrapped in newspaper. I didn't know what you liked, he said, offering it to Caleb. So I just guessed. Caleb unwrapped it carefully. Inside, a small wooden robot, carved, sanded, painted with a shaky but deliberate hand. Its arms moved on tiny pins. The body was a bit lopsided, but the eyes were bright blue buttons glued on tight. Caleb stared at it for a long time, then looked up. "You made this?" My dad nodded. "Tried to, anyway." Caleb smiled. "It's cool." He held it gently, turning it in his fingers. Then, "Can we go to the swings?" "Go ahead," I said. He ran off, just far enough to be alone, but not far enough to be out of reach. "I didn't think he'd smile," my dad said quietly. I kept my eyes on Caleb. "He does that. He seems good." "He is." Ron looked at his hands. "You did a good job." I wanted to say thank you. I did, but the words sat heavy in my throat, so I just nodded. "I'm not here to rewrite things," he said after a minute. "I know that's not possible." I looked at him. "Then why now?" He didn't answer immediately. Then, "Because the silence got too loud." "I didn't expect that." "I thought it was safer, he said, "to stay gone. Safer for you, for me. But that kind of safety, it turns into rot after a while." I swallowed. He looked back at Caleb. "I don't want to ruin anything. I'm not asking to be in your life, or his, not unless you want that. I just—" He trailed off. "I just didn't want to die without meeting him." We stayed another half hour. Caleb came back with muddy shoes and a grin, asked Grandpa Ron if he could help build a robot garage out of cardboard sometime. Ron said yes, if that was okay with me. I nodded. "We'll figure it out." On the drive home, Caleb held the wooden robot in his lap. Didn't say much, just kept spinning the little arms around and around. Finally, "He talks kind of funny." I smiled. "Yeah, he always has." "But he was nice." "Yeah," I said, "he was." "Can we see him again?" "I think so." Caleb nodded like that was settled. Over the next few weeks, they met a few more times, always in public, always short. Library, mini golf. Once at the diner where Caleb likes the waffle fries. Each time, it got a little easier, and each time, I waited for the other shoe to drop. Then came the voicemail. A Tuesday night, same as before. Late. No text, just the buzz and the blinking light. I didn't check it until the next morning. His voice was soft, quieter than I'd ever heard. "Hey, just wanted to say thanks for letting me be around, even a little. That's more than I deserved. I've got a scan next week. Don't want to make a big thing of it. Just thought you should know. Beat. I'm okay. Just tired." That was it. No panic, no drama, just the truth, finally in a full sentence. I didn't tell Caleb right away. What could I say? That the man he just started liking might not be around long? That the space in his stick figure family could get erased before it ever dried? Instead, I called Ron, told him we were coming over. He didn't ask why. He just said, "Okay, I'll be here." Ron's apartment was smaller than I expected. One bedroom, second floor, end of the hallway, with a door that stuck just enough to make a sound when it opened. The walls were the same off-white you see in every rental. His furniture was minimal. TV on, a folding stand, recliner with a towel draped over the headrest, a wooden coffee table that might have been handmade or maybe just old. He'd cleared space on the kitchen counter for us, moved a stack of mail, a half-used bottle of arthritis cream, and a wrench I guess didn't belong there. The table had 3 chairs around it, not 2. That detail caught me. So did the cardboard box tucked in the corner, half filled with scrap wood, and an empty hot glue gun blister pack. Caleb noticed it right away. "Is that for the robot garage?" Ron smiled. "It might be." We stayed 2 hours. Caleb explored every corner he was allowed to, touched every surface with a curiosity I hadn't seen since he was 4. He sat with Ron and sketched plans for the robot garage on the back of an old paper placemat. Ron watched him like he was memorizing it. I hovered near the sink, not out of distrust, just instinct. At one point, Ron poured Caleb a glass of apple juice. Shaky hands, barely spilled a drop. They laughed about something. I don't remember what. And it hit me, sudden and hard, how quiet it used to be between us. How even silence had once been a weapon. Now it just felt like breathing room. Emily joined us the next weekend. She brought banana bread, even though I warned her about the fruit thing. Caleb made a face when Ron sliced a piece for him. Ron grinned. Still hate bananas, huh? Yup. Good. More for me. Emily watched the two of them like someone trying to count raindrops, part wonder, part caution. I caught her once, standing near the doorway, watching Ron tie a knot in some twine for Caleb's robot trap project. Her arms were folded, but her shoulders weren't tense. Later she told me, he's not who I expected. I said, me neither. She added, I'm glad you gave him a chance. I didn't answer, just nodded. Because the truth is, I didn't give him a chance. I gave Caleb one. The scan came back. Stage 2, lung, operable, but not easy, not clean. Ron told me during a walk around the park. Same place he first met Caleb. I'm not afraid of the pain, he said. I'm afraid of going before he knows me, before he gets enough to remember. I didn't say anything. He looked at me. Do you think I've earned that right? I looked at my son, chasing a leaf down a hill like it was the most important thing in the world. Then I said, that's not for me to decide. Surgery was scheduled for mid-December. Ron insisted he go alone. I didn't let him. I sat in the waiting room with a cup of stale coffee and a vending machine Kit Kat I didn't eat. Emily texted updates from home. Caleb had packed the wooden robot into a lunchbox and placed it by the window so it could get sun. I got the call just before noon. Complications, but they got it. Clean margins. He'd need rehab. Time. Patience. For once, I had those things. Christmas was small that year. Just us. Emily, Caleb, and I brought a little fake tree to Ron's apartment. Caleb made ornaments out of foil and pipe cleaners. Ron gave him a book on robots, actual mechanical design basics, not cartoons. When Caleb opened it, he whispered, "This is big kid stuff." Ron said, "You're getting there." We didn't talk about the past after that, not because it didn't matter, because we didn't need to. Ron became grandpa. Not overnight, not even over months, but slowly, through repetition, through quiet mornings and short visits and drawings tacked to his fridge with mismatched magnets. He came to Caleb's science fair. He built a wooden toolbox for the robot garage. He sat in the back row during Caleb's school play, even though the chairs made his knees ache and he couldn't see well from that far. And when Caleb got his first loose tooth, it was Ron who told him to tie it to a doorknob. Emily wasn't thrilled about that one. The question came back, one night in spring. We were sitting around the dinner table, cleaning up after pizza. Caleb looked up from his glass of milk and said, "Why didn't Grandpa call before?" The air stilled. Emily glanced at me. I glanced at Ron. Ron cleared his throat. His voice came low, because I didn't know how to be better yet. Caleb thought about that, then shrugged. Okay. And that was it. That was enough. He's not perfect. Never will be. He still forgets birthdays, still calls the TV remote the clicker, still writes checks at the grocery store. But when Caleb scraped his knee last month, it was Ron who knelt down and handed him a Band-Aid from his wallet. When Caleb made the honor roll, it was Ron who mailed him a laminated printout of the school newsletter with a gold star sticker slapped on the front. And every Sunday, without fail, My phone buzzes at 4:30. It's always him. A photo, a joke, a weather update, a robot idea. Caleb reads them out loud, grins, texts back with too many emojis. A few days ago, Caleb asked me if I ever wanted to be like Grandpa when I got old. I laughed at first, then thought about it. Thought about second chances. Thought about how the past doesn't disappear. But sometimes it folds itself neatly behind you so the future can breathe. So I said, I hope I get that lucky. He smiled and went back to his drawing. I still don't have a clean answer to that question. Why Grandpa never called, but I have this. He does now. And sometimes that's the only truth you need. If this story moved you, subscribe for more real-life confessions and emotional journeys like this one.